Very good. Excellent. Hi to both of you. Well, thank you so much for joining us, and thank you to those of you who are in the room. So as we mentioned a little bit earlier today, there's a new integrated food security phase classification analysis, better known as the IPC report, that was published earlier today on the Democratic Republic of the Congo. So we're very pleased today to have someone that you know very well, that you've seen very often here, Jean-Martin Bauer, whom you have seen in his previous role many times as country director for WFP in Haiti. He's now in Rome, and he's the director of food security and nutrition and analysis, still of course at the World Food Programme. And we also have Shelley Thakral, who is WFP's spokesperson in the Democratic Republic of the Congo, and she is joining us from Kinshasa. Jean-Martin, I think we will be able to see you on the big screen over here. Let me give you the floor first.
Hi, Stephanie. Thank you. You cut out at the end there, but I think it's over to me. Good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to take a few minutes to talk you through the highlights of the latest IPC release for the Democratic Republic of Congo. What's of note is that this new data shows how this conflict in the Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo is affecting food security in the country. The data shows that 27.7 million people in the DRC are facing acute food insecurity. This is an unprecedented level. This is the highest level on record that we've seen in the country. We've been monitoring food security in the DRC with the IPC system since 2008, and this is the highest number we have ever.
Hold on one second if you don't mind, and I apologize for interrupting, but here in the room we're hearing some other sound. Is there somebody maybe that is not muted on the Zoom? I don't know if our technical colleagues can check. They're telling me to wait a second. Just wave at me when we can resume. Sorry about that. It should be fixed very shortly.
Of the East is
Resume,
classified.
Go ahead.
Of the IPC, showing that they're a subset of the population with very, very high needs. The factors that have contributed to making this crisis what it is are, of course, displacement. It's been conflict, but it's also been the economic impacts of this situation. This has moved quite quickly in the past few months. Since December, we've seen these accelerated displacement in the east of DRC. We've seen a disruption to trade and markets. Banks in the east of DRC have been closed. That's causing a liquidity crisis that's having an impact on commodity prices. It's having an impact on people's ability to survive and to implement their livelihoods. The insecurity is also affecting farming in the east of the DRC. So the situation is bad now. It could possibly get worse. So to give you the highlights again, 27.7 million people in IPC phases 3 and 4 in DRC, 3.9 million in phase 4. The problem is concentrated in the east of the DRC. The IDP population, the internally displaced population, is quite affected. And we've seen an increase of 2.5 million people since the last time we did an IPC in the DRC. I'd like to hand it over to my colleague, Shelley, in Kinshasa. Over to you, Shelley.
So much, Jean-Martin. Yeah, pretty bleak picture. I'm talking to you from Kinshasa, the capital. I have spent time in Goma, and it's really hard to basically understand the fact that this isn't also a new crisis. This has been going on for decades. Others will tell you that, they are now having to sell what little they have to find food. Many will go without food to feed their children. They're forced into malnutrition. higher risk of disease and mortality. Let's not forget that we already have cases of Mpox, more than 80,000, and cholera, more than 7,000. Crime has reached an alarming level. We have seen that security has just paralyzed the local economy. And as Jean-Martin mentioned, banks are shuttered, shops are shuttered. And, this has had a massive knock-on effect on the local population, who are just also living in this climate of fear, of deep uncertainty. And although some schools have resumed activities, it's super irregular. Food prices have gone up. Everything from maize flour, cassava, cooking oil, all up by nearly 40% since December last year. The cost of fuel, supply chains are tough for us. We've been able to resume some operations in parts of North and South Kivu. And just to give you a snapshot, we've been able to reach 600,000 people so far in 2025. Don't forget, we're almost 4 months into this year. And in December alone in 2024, we were reaching 1.8 million. So this is having a massive effect on the humanitarian need to get to people when you've got such alarming numbers that the IPC is showing us today. And I just want to give you just finally, a couple of thoughts. Let's not forget, this country is one of the world's most fertile. It only, however, has 10 million of 80 million arable land that's cultivated. 50% of Africa's water resources are here. You fly over the country, you see the Congo Bassin, you see fertility, you see things growing. But despite the fact that we've got enough resources to feed the people here and beyond in Africa, we could export food, we could really help the local economy, but it's a combination of efforts of factors: the conflict, food prices, fuel prices, poor infrastructure, poor tarmac roads, has just basically pushed these people further and further into hunger, and that potential has just been unexploited. I just want to leave you with a couple of quotes from people that we've met just recently. Linda left Goma 2 weeks ago. She's now back in Masisi province in North Kivu. She said, "I'm struggling to settle down because I don't have anything, and everything I had is gone. I've got to restart. Peace is my number one priority. It would allow me to continue farming, which would allow me to cover our needs and the needs of our family." And then Sifa, who's now back in Sake, she told us, "Many of our houses have been burned. This is the most pressing concern. We returned home. We've got nothing. My home is burnt down. My land is just destroyed. I'm living with my mother, and I still don't even know where my husband is. He fled, and the conflict has left many of us, almost like widows. We just don't know where our families are. We've lost many men and many husbands." So I'll just pause there. Thank you.
Thank you so much to both of you. Let us open here for some questions. I'll give the floor first to Gabriel.
Hello, this is Gabriel Elizondo from Al Jazeera English. Thank you so much for the very important and timely briefing. Excuse me, two questions, and sobering, I should say, as well. Two questions. For Shelley, I just wanted to confirm some numbers that you gave to make sure I heard them correctly. You said in December of last year, you were able to reach 1.8 million people, and so far through today of 2025, all this year, it's 600,000. Did I hear that correctly?
You did indeed, and just bearing in mind that 25th of January is when Goma was seized, and then it was about 3 weeks later that Bukavu fell. So there was a whole period of real insecurity where we weren't able to get on the ground. The safety of our staff was first and foremost. We also had warehouses that were looted, almost 5. We had a vast number of stocks that were taken. So we've had to really do a couple of things: get staff to safety, think about when we can resume operations in a safe and timely manner. And we were really only able to get going towards the end of February. So that's why we're seeing figures. Yes, we'd like to be able to get up to higher numbers a month, but we're going to have to do this, one day at a time, one step at a time, because of security restrictions, because of funding, and just because of just the humanitarian challenges that we are facing right now in the eastern side of Congo.
There's a lot of challenges right now in and around Goma. There's probably could spend an hour talking about them all, but can you tell us about the top one from your perspective that's really hindering your work?
So the airport's been closed since January, the Goma airport, and as you can imagine, that has, for us as humanitarian workers, we need to get in. We need to be on the ground. We need to make sure it's not just for WFP, but we operate the United Nations Humanitarian Air Services for all of NGOs. And the NGOs want us back. They want the UN back. They need us to kind of continue to help, really rally and rally that support. We need to be there. We need to be there for the people. The banks have been shut. That causes a massive liquidity crisis. People, you go to a market, they can't even afford, a banana or a kind of can of water. People have lost their livelihoods, and as this has encroached further into the urban centre as well. And just to talk about Goma, whereas you would have had up until December makeshift camps encircling Goma, and then 20 kilometers away, camps of 1 million people told to go home, go back to your villages. We're not. This is the M23, the armed groups. We're not putting up with the camps anymore. So off they have to go, and where are they going? They don't know. They don't know what they're turning up to, and these people have been multiply displaced over years. You'll meet people who went to Uganda, came back. They went to Sake. They then went to Gomas. They've gone back to Sake. So it's really tough for these returnees. It's really, and they've lived through trauma, and they tell us, how much more do I have to live through?
Carrie?
Thanks, Steph. Hi, Carrie Naughton from Radio France Internationale and Le Monde. Thank you, Shelley, for telling us so many details, because it's hard for us also to have good accounting on what's happening in the ground. I have a question for Jean-Martin, because Jean-Martin, in your previous role, I interviewed you when you were in Haiti, and I remember it was the same type of problematic. You were in a very fertile country where you have a lot of crops. You were talking about dozens of thousands of mangoes which were rotting in Haiti and etc. So I guess it's a very frustrating solution. But I remember also that in Haiti you managed to put in place some solutions and some tactics. Are you managed to harvesting on these solutions and tactics, and are you able to already implement them in RDC, or the airport being closed, it's really the number one blockage, as you just told Gabrielle?
So I'll give you an initial answer, and Shelley will help us with the situation on the ground in DRC. But I can tell you that, unfortunately, the situation is too common. The number one cause for acute food insecurity worldwide is conflict. Worldwide, you've got 343 million people who are facing acute food insecurity. 60% of them are in fragile contexts. Places like the DRC, places like Haiti, where there is a potential for agriculture, but where violence, unfortunately, disrupts markets and throws people into a situation of vulnerability. This is, again, what hunger is like in our day and age. Over to Shelley for the details about DRC.
Indeed, and beyond the emergency, I can absolutely, rest assured, where we want to be able to support farmers, we want to be able to support women, we want to get them the skills that they need to run their businesses, to have better market practices, to be able to kind of get their produce to markets. But you know what, when you haven't got a bank that you can go to, when you can't get money out, and you just don't know, you don't even know if you can kind of feed your kids, Yes, what we will continue to do, and we do this with FAO as well, is to kind of encourage kitchen farms, where we can do school feeding. But all this is just it's a tiny portion of what this emergency is right now. And if you don't have peace, if you don't have peace on the table, if you don't have a ceasefire, if you don't just call a cessation to all of this, it's those people that will continue to suffer.